The 2026 Ford Bronco is packing hidden advantages that most people completely overlook, advantages that give it a real edge over rivals like the Jeep Wrangler and Toyota 4Runner in ways you probably never considered. If you've been comparing off-roaders but can't figure out why the Bronco keeps catching your attention, these 5 hidden advantages are the exact reasons why. While the Wrangler gets all the glory for its iconic design and legendary capability, the Bronco is quietly outperforming it in key areas that actually matter for daily driving and serious off-road use. Number 5. Independent front suspension. Here's something that doesn't get nearly enough attention: the Bronco's independent front suspension setup. Most people assume that serious off-roaders need a solid front axle to handle tough terrain, and that's exactly what the Wrangler uses. But Ford took a different approach with the Bronco, and it's paying off in ways that matter. If you've ever driven a Wrangler on the highway for a couple of hours, you know exactly what we're talking about. That solid front axle transmits every bump and imperfection straight through to the cabin, turning what should be a relaxing drive into an exhausting experience. The Bronco, on the other hand, soaks up road imperfections with far more grace. The independent setup allows each wheel to react independently to surface changes, which means a smoother, more controlled ride when you're commuting or taking a road trip. But here's where it gets interesting. This improved on-road comfort doesn't come at the expense of off-road capability. Ford engineered the suspension to deliver serious articulation and wheel travel, so when you're crawling over rocks or navigating uneven terrain, the Bronco is maintaining traction and handling obstacles just as effectively as competitors with solid axles. The independent front suspension is also contributing to better steering response and handling precision. When you're making quick corrections on a trail or maneuvering through tight spots, the Bronco is reacting more predictably. And speaking of making a difference, that suspension is pointless if you don't have the right power to back it up, which brings us to the next advantage. Number 4. Turbocharged engine lineup. The Bronco is offering something that sets it apart from the competition: a complete lineup of turbocharged engines. This isn't just about numbers on paper, it's about how that power is delivered, and more specifically, where it shows up in the rev range. Anyone who's done serious trail driving knows the struggle of trying to coax power out of an engine at low speeds. You're barely creeping along, trying to maintain momentum over an obstacle, and you need instant response from the throttle. The base Bronco is coming with a 2.3-liter EcoBoost Turbo 4 that puts out 300 horsepower and 325 pound-feet of torque. Now, compare that to the Wrangler's base engine, a naturally aspirated 3.6-liter V6 with 285 horsepower and just 260 pound-feet of torque. On paper, the power figures look somewhat similar, but here's the crucial difference. The Turbo 4 is delivering massive low-end torque right where you need it most. When you're on a trail, crawling over obstacles, or pulling yourself up a steep incline, it's low-end torque that makes the difference. The Bronco's turbocharged setup is putting that torque down low in the rev range, giving you instant pulling power without having to rev the engine high. The Wrangler's naturally aspirated V6, meanwhile, needs higher RPMs to access its peak torque. That means more throttle modulation, more engine noise, and a less refined off-road experience. But the advantages don't stop there. The Turbo 4 is also delivering better fuel efficiency than the Wrangler's V6. You're getting more power, more usable torque, and burning less fuel in the process. And if the base engine isn't enough, Ford is offering even more turbocharged options. The 2.7-liter EcoBoost V6 cranks out 330 horsepower and 415 pound-feet of torque, while the Raptor version, with its twin-turbo 3.0-liter V6, produces 418 horsepower and 440 pound-feet of torque. Absolute monster numbers for an off-roader. Now, all that power is great for conquering trails, but if you can't actually bring your gear along for the adventure, what's the point? That's where the next advantage comes into play. Number 3. Cargo space advantage. Here's an advantage that surprises a lot of people. The Bronco is actually offering more cargo space than the Wrangler. When you think about two similarly sized off-roaders, you might assume they're pretty comparable in terms of how much stuff you can haul, but the numbers tell a different story. The 4-door Bronco is providing 35.6 cubic feet of cargo space behind the second row. That's with all seats up and passengers comfortably seated. Fold those rear seats down and you're looking at 77.6 cubic feet of total cargo capacity. Now, let's compare that to the 4-door Wrangler Unlimited. Behind the second row, you're getting 31.7 cubic feet. With the seats folded, total capacity goes up to 72.4 cubic feet. That means the Bronco is giving you nearly 4 extra cubic feet with the seats up and over 5 additional cubic feet with everything folded flat. In real-world use, those extra cubic feet are making a noticeable impact. Whether you're packing camping gear, loading up sports equipment, or just handling a big grocery run, the Bronco is accommodating more stuff with less Tetris-style packing required. The cargo area design is also worth mentioning. Ford engineers have paid attention to how people actually use these vehicles. The space is well shaped with minimal intrusions and a relatively flat load floor when the seats are down. But here's the thing, you can load up all the gear you want, but none of it matters if you can't actually clear the obstacles on your way to the campsite, which is exactly what the next advantage solves. Number 2. Ground clearance that matters. Ground clearance is one of those specs that off-road enthusiasts obsess over, and for good reason. More clearance means you're able to tackle more aggressive terrain without scraping the undercarriage or getting hung up on obstacles. The Bronco is delivering in this department in ways that should grab attention. A standard Bronco is sitting at around 8.3 inches of ground clearance, which is respectable for everyday off-road use. But Ford isn't stopping there. Move up to the Badlands trim with its Sasquatch package and you're looking at 11.6 inches of clearance. But here's where the Bronco really pulls ahead. The Raptor variant is offering up to 13.1 inches of ground clearance. Think about that for a second. That's higher than the Wrangler Rubicon's 10.8 inches. It's higher than the 4Runner TRD Pro's 10 inches. The Bronco Raptor is sitting taller than some of the most respected names in off-roading. So the Bronco can tackle the toughest terrain with ease, but there's one more advantage that's harder to measure but impossible to ignore. Number 1. Retro design done right. Let's talk about something that's harder to quantify but absolutely matters: the way the Bronco captures retro styling. The Wrangler has long been celebrated for its iconic design, and there's no question it's a timeless look. But somehow, the Bronco is tapping into nostalgia in a way that's resonating differently with buyers. Ford has done an exceptional job of honoring the original Bronco's design language while making it feel modern and fresh. Those round headlights, the upright stance, the squared-off body lines, it all harks back to the classic Broncos of the 1960s and 70s without feeling like a cheap retro gimmick. And for buyers who remember the original Bronco or grew up hearing stories about it, this modern interpretation is hitting all the right emotional notes. But here's where Ford is really separating itself: the special editions and visual packages. The Heritage Edition brings back color schemes from the first-generation Bronco. The Wildtrak package adds aggressive styling cues that enhance the retro-modern aesthetic. The Everglades trim is introducing unique colors and design elements that set it apart. And the Raptor? That's taking the classic Bronco shape and injecting it with modern performance attitude. Each of these versions is adding its own character while maintaining that core Bronco DNA. The Wrangler certainly offers various trims and additions, but somehow the Bronco's special versions feel more distinctive, more connected to the vehicle's heritage. Walk up to a Heritage Edition Bronco with its two-tone paint and classic badging, and you're immediately transported back to a time when off-roaders were simple, rugged, and unapologetically functional. But then you get inside, and you're surrounded by modern tech, comfortable seats, and contemporary conveniences. That blend of old-school cool and new-school capability is what's making the Bronco so appealing. Ford has also been smart about customization options. Buyers are able to personalize their Broncos with different grills, fender flares, wheels, and accessories that enhance the retro aesthetic in unique ways. The aftermarket is exploding with Bronco parts because the design is inspiring people to make these vehicles their own. That's the mark of a design that's truly resonating with enthusiasts. So, there you have it. 5 hidden advantages that make the 2026 Ford Bronco stand out in ways most buyers never consider. From the independent front suspension that balances on-road comfort with off-road capability, to the turbocharged engines delivering usable low-end torque where it matters most, the Bronco is proving that smart engineering beats tradition. Add in more cargo space than the Wrangler, ground clearance that exceeds even the most respected off-roaders, and retro styling that captures emotion without feeling gimmicky, and it becomes clear why the Bronco is turning heads all around. But don't think that the Wrangler has nothing to offer, especially after the big updates for 2026 you can check out in our next video. If iconic styling and uncompromised off-road performance matter the most to you, then Jeep's model is a clear choice. Besides familiar strengths, it's even available in a plug-in hybrid variant, while you'll be more than happy to know that the V8-powered Rubicon 392 carries on.